the venerable sailboat trailer. For the blue water pocket cruiser that can pretty much sail anywhere, you can go anywhere on the road with a trailer. In this case, this is a Coos sailor's trailer built by Spurgeon Marine in 1988. Heavy steel construction, very much overbuilt. A bit of surface rust, nothing too bad, but it does have a lot of extra weight, especially for the vehicle that I used to tow this. So for the first part, I'm going to be cutting off some of that excess weight, which I think is unnecessary. Now weighing the port side keel guide, and we have about 90, more like 95 pounds. And the starboard side keel guide weighs just under 100. It's actually a few pounds heavier than the port side. Now out of the boat shed, I've already modified, or at least cut off this piece here. I'm not sure if this is for mounting a winch or something, or what it is. But also this triangular tower thing with the ladder, really unnecessary weight, so that's coming off too. And courtesy of the grinder, it is now free of that piece. And now this front piece, this winch tower, or whatever it's called, with the extra piece that I cut off the front, is approximately 75 pounds. Weighing this very long extension bar on the bathroom scale, approximately 110 pounds. And now for the second part, and that will be to make these side supports with the pad that presses against the hull to keep the boat upright. They are semi-adjustable here. This pipe slides inside the base here, and you kind of just tighten these to push against this. You see the divot from that. But what I want to do is make this more easily adjustable so that I can actually lift the front of the boat when I need to, like if I have to move those 2x4s to get underneath or whatever. So the midship one is basically the same, and then the aftmost support has this inside, and I don't believe this is original. I believe it came that way from the factory. And what someone did here was they took another pipe and welded it inside. It only goes down about 3 inches, and that is to support this threaded rod with this. So I tried to figure out a source for that sort of thing, and found that this is actually something that's used in scaffolding. It's actually the base, which is this right here. And as you can see, it's an exact match. So all I really need to do here is cut off that base plate, that's square, and maybe drill a hole in the top so that you could put so I can put the bolt through for the pad. But also there's this section here on the threads where you can see it looks like it's been kind of mangled or whatever, and that's intentional so that you don't unscrew it too far. So I'll probably put it in this direction, so that that thread stop is kind of below there. Okay, so drop that support, unbolted the pad here, And now the threaded rod, the cross piece there, I did flip it around so that the solid part is going to be on the bottom. So it will go in here. However, it's not going to work like that. But rather than weld in a piece of pipe like was done over there, I have another idea, which is to add these two grade 8 washers, very thick washers, which are definitely strong enough to support the weight of the boat. However, this thing moves around, so I need to insert some sort of lining, some sort of pipe. I know a lot of people will use PVC because it doesn't need to be metal, and it doesn't even need to be strong. It's just to guide the threaded rod as it comes up and down. Okay, so moving on. Had to think this through to see what would work here as a liner and a guide inside that pipe. And what I've come up with is 1.25 inch PVC is actually a pretty good fit for this threaded rod here. However, it won't go past that stop. So I suppose I could try to sand it down or something, but a better solution I think is this, which is salvage from the keel guides that I had cut off. This is actually a much better fit, as you can see here. So that goes past the keel guides. So of course that is not wide enough. Still got a lot of space, so I did find a spacer, and that is a bushing that is 1.25 inch on one side and 2 inches on the other side. But the fitting itself is almost a direct fit. Let's see how that works. Okay, so I have pounded that pipe into the bushings. It was a very, very tight fit. Actually, I broke one here, as you can see. So I sanded down the pipe and used the wire wheel on the inside of the bushing to remove some material. But that's a really tight fit. That's not going anywhere. Also, in order to get this to fit really well in here, I took off the point of the flat part to make this a little bit more rounded, and that will cause this to sit in there like this. All I got to do is just push it in there, and it'll hold itself in there with friction. And one important detail that I forgot to mention here is to cut this off. You can see there's a bit of a bevel there. That's because the pad sits on an angle and it fit there better. But I need it to be flat because the washers will be sitting on top. And now ready to push this down. So I have the two bushings. This is the inner sleeve that the threaded rod sits in. And I found it important to put the rod in here before I push this down, because I did try putting this in first, and then I could not get this in because it was on an angle. Kind of hard to explain. But now I'm going to push that down. And there we have it. All assembled. I bolted the pad on there. Well, it's kind of far apart, but it should be okay. And you just turn this clockwise to raise it. But I'm going to do the other side first before I test it out. Okay, and it's important to note that the bottom bushing, I needed to sand down quite a bit more than the top one, where the flats were, and now there's a ridge, so that it'll be able to slide down, while the top one It's just the right size that I'll be able to push it in there and it'll hold itself just through friction. And now that's in place. So here's a before and after. And now to test it out. Okay, I've cranked up both sides quite a few turns. And you can see that there's already a gap here that was actually resting on that stop board, and the block here, you can see it's easily moved. So I'm going to call this a success. So this wasn't the most interesting project, of course, in comparison to some of the others I've done. But nevertheless, it was necessary. I'm glad I got it done. There was a lot of off-camera swearing here, especially where those bushings were concerned. But moving on to the next project.